I never imagined my life would take such a turn. We were the picture-perfect family, or so I thought. My name's Tom, and I've been married to Emily for 15 years. We live in a quiet suburb in Oregon, in a modest two-story house with a well-tended garden that Emily takes great pride in. Our two kids, Sam and Lily, are the light of my life. Sam's 12 and just started middle school, while Lily is 10, full of curiosity and boundless energy. Our neighborhood is the kind where everyone knows each other. Barbecues in the summer, kids running around, and holiday decorations that make the whole place feel like a scene out of a family movie. We have a mix of families, retirees, and young couples just starting out. It's a close-knit community, the kind of place where you feel safe leaving your doors unlocked. Our next-door neighbors, the Johnsons, have been our friends since we moved here. John and Karen are around our age, with two kids of their own who often play with Sam and Lily. John and I bonded over our love for football, often watching games together on Sundays. Karen and Emily seemed inseparable, always chatting over coffee or working on some community project. Life seemed perfect. I worked as a manager at a local tech firm, while Emily, after years as a stay-at-home mom, had just started a part-time job at a nearby boutique. Our routine was comforting. Breakfast together, the rush of getting the kids to school, work, and then evenings spent as a family. We were happy, or so I believed. Little did I know the foundation of our marriage was about to be shaken to its core. The first hint that something was off came subtly, almost innocuously. Emily started spending more time on her appearance. She'd always been beautiful to me, but she suddenly seemed preoccupied with looking her best every single day. New clothes, makeup, and trips to the salon became frequent. I noticed, but I didn't think much of it at first. After all, she had just started a new job and wanted to make a good impression. But then, there were the late nights. Her part-time job didn't explain why she often came home after dinner. She'd always have a reason. Inventory was running late. She went out for drinks with her colleagues, or she just needed some time to herself. Initially, I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She was my wife, and I trusted her completely. Still, little things started to bother me. She seemed distant, more preoccupied with her phone than with what was happening at home. Conversations felt forced, and when we did talk, she was often irritable and quick to snap. The warmth in her eyes seemed to dim, replaced by something cold and uninviting. One night, while we were watching TV, a message popped up on her phone. She quickly turned the screen away, but not before I caught a glimpse of the sender. John J. It was our neighbor, John Johnson. My stomach churned. Why was John texting my wife so late at night? I brushed it off, convincing myself it was probably something innocent, maybe about the kids or a neighborhood matter. However, the unease grew. Emily's phone became an extension of her hand. She was always texting, always smiling at something on the screen, and her laughter, once a shared joy, was now reserved for whatever was happening in her digital world. She started locking her phone, something she had never done before. I tried to shake off my suspicions, telling myself I was being paranoid. But then, one Saturday, I saw something that stopped me cold. Emily was in the backyard, laughing and talking animatedly with John over the fence. Their heads were close together, and they looked far too comfortable. When she noticed me watching, her expression changed. She seemed guilty, almost afraid. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Emily and John, their easy camaraderie, the shared secrets. I couldn't ignore it anymore. Something was definitely wrong. Over the next few days, I started paying closer attention. I'd glance at her phone when she wasn't looking, trying to catch a glimpse of her conversations. I checked her social media for any unusual activity. I even considered talking to John directly, but what would I say? Hey, are you having an affair with my wife? It seemed absurd. The breaking point came a week later. Emily had gone out for drinks with friends again, and I was home alone, trying to focus on a project for work. I was restless, anxious, unable to concentrate. Finally, I did something I never thought I'd do. I opened her laptop and checked her email. What I found confirmed my worst fears. Hidden in a folder labeled work stuff were dozens of emails between Emily and John. They were explicit, detailing meetings at hotels, stolen moments when they thought no one was looking, and professions of love that shattered my heart into a million pieces. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. The air left my lungs and I couldn't breathe. My hands shook as I scrolled through the messages, each one more damning than the last. My mind raced, trying to make sense of it all. How long had this been going on? Why John, of all people? I sat there stunned, the weight of betrayal heavy on my shoulders. My wife, the woman I had loved and trusted for 15 years, was having an affair with our neighbor. The realization was a knife to my heart, and the pain was unbearable. But more than that, it was the deceit, the lies, the fact that she had been living this double life right under my nose. The woman I thought I knew had become a stranger. I didn't know what to do, how to confront her, or even if I wanted to. All I knew was that my world had been turned upside down, and nothing would ever be the same again. The betrayal gnawed at me, a constant ache that wouldn't let me rest. I couldn't look at Emily the same way anymore. Every smile, every touch felt like a lie. I decided I needed concrete proof, something undeniable that I could confront her with. I had to catch them in the act. It wasn't long before the opportunity presented itself. Emily announced she was going out for drinks with her colleagues again. The nonchalance in her voice made my blood boil. I knew she was lying, and this time I was determined to catch her. As soon as she left, I sprang into action. I waited until I saw her car leave the neighborhood, then grabbed my jacket and headed outside. The night was chilly, the kind that makes you shiver even if you're not cold. I walked briskly to John's house, my heart pounding with each step. Their house was dark, but I knew better than to believe that meant anything. I crept around to the back where a small window looked into their living room. I had to stand on my toes to see inside, but what I saw made my heart stop. There they were, Emily and John, entangled on the couch, oblivious to the world around them. My breath came in ragged gasps, anger and betrayal coursing through me. I fumbled in my pocket for my phone, but in my rage I decided I needed more than just a picture. I needed to confront them, to see the look on their faces when they realized they'd been caught. I moved quietly to the back door. John had always been careless about locking up, and tonight was no exception. The door creaked open, and I slipped inside, the adrenaline making my movements swift and silent. I made my way through the dark house, the sounds of their passion guiding me. The closer I got, the more I could hear. Breathy moans, whispered words that cut deeper than any knife. I reached the living room doorway and paused, gathering my courage. Then I stepped into the light. "Having a good time?" I said, my voice low and shaking with fury. They froze, their faces a mask of shock and horror. Emily scrambled to cover herself while John just stared at me, wide-eyed and pale. "Tom!" Emily gasped, her voice trembling. I can explain." "Explain?" I laughed bitterly. "Explain how you're screwing our neighbor on his couch? Yeah, I'd love to hear that." John stood up, trying to regain some semblance of composure. "Tom, man, this isn't what it looks like." "Shut up!" I roared, cutting him off. "You think I'm an idiot? You think I haven't seen the messages, the emails? How long has this been going on? How long have you been making a fool out of me?" Emily burst into tears, sobbing uncontrollably. "Tom, please, I'm so sorry. It just happened. I didn't mean for it to go this far." "Didn't mean for it to go this far," I echoed. "Do you even hear yourself? You've been lying to me, to our kids, sneaking around behind my back. You destroyed our family for this piece of shit?" John, still half naked, stepped forward. "Look, Tom, I know you're angry, but let's just talk about this, okay? We're all adults here." "Adults?" I spat. "You're pathetic, John. Both of you are. I trusted you. I let you into my home, into my life, and this is how you repay me?" Emily reached out to me, her eyes pleading. "Tom, please, let's go home and talk about this. We can fix it, I promise." I backed away from her touch, my skin crawling with disgust. "There's nothing to fix, Emily. You made your choice, and now you have to live with it." I turned to leave, but then a thought struck me. A way to make them feel a fraction of the humiliation I felt. I pulled out my phone and snapped a picture of them, capturing their guilt and shame. "This is just the beginning," I said, my voice cold. "Everyone's going to know what you've done. Your friends, your family, our kids. You'll pay for this." I walked out, leaving them stunned and speechless. The night air hit me like a slap, but I welcomed it. It was a reminder that I was still standing, still capable of feeling something other than pain. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing for sure. Emily and John had shattered my world, and I was going to make damn sure they regretted it. The rage and betrayal I felt burned inside me, an unquenchable fire that demanded justice. I couldn't just let them get away with this. They had to feel the same pain, the same humiliation. As I mulled over my options, a plan began to form. It was drastic, but then again, so was their betrayal. Karen Johnson, John's wife, was a kind woman. She was friends with Emily and me, always so warm and welcoming. I couldn't understand how John could betray her so casually. The thought of her being in the dark about this infuriated me even more. She deserved to know the truth, and I had the perfect way to deliver it. The next day, I waited until Emily left for work. I watched her drive away, my anger simmering just beneath the surface. Once she was gone, I made my way to the Johnsons' house. I knocked on the door, my heart pounding in my chest. Karen answered, her face lighting up when she saw me. "Tom, hi, come on in," she said, stepping aside to let me enter. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "Hi, Karen. I need to talk to you about something important. It's about John and Emily." Her smile faltered, and she led me to the living room. We sat down, and I could see the worry in her eyes. "What is it, Tom? Is everything okay?" I shook my head, feeling a mix of anger and pity. "I'm sorry, Karen, but you need to know the truth. John and Emily have been having an affair." Her eyes widened, disbelief etched on her face. "What? No, that can't be true. John would never." I pulled out my phone, showing her the emails and texts I had found. She read them, her face crumbling as the reality of the situation sank in. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she looked at me, her expression a mix of hurt and confusion. "How long?" she whispered. "How long has this been going on?" "For months," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm so sorry, Karen. I just found out myself." She sat there in stunned silence, the weight of the betrayal crashing down on her. I felt a pang of guilt for being the one to deliver such devastating news, but she had the right to know. "Thank you for telling me, Tom," she said finally, her voice shaky. "I can't believe this is happening." As we sat there, sharing our pain, an unexpected bond began to form. We were both victims of their deceit, both struggling to make sense of the betrayal. Over the next few days, we found solace in each other's company, talking and supporting one another through the pain. Our conversations grew more personal, and I found myself drawn to Karen in ways I hadn't expected. She was strong and resilient, her kindness shining through even in the midst of her heartbreak. One evening, as we sat on her porch, sipping wine and talking about anything but our spouses, the tension between us became palpable. She looked at me, her eyes searching mine. "Tom, thank you for being here. I don't know how I would have gotten through this without you." I reached out, taking her hand in mine. "You don't have to thank me, Karen. We're in this together." The moment hung between us, heavy with unspoken feelings. Before I knew it, we were leaning in, our lips meeting in a kiss that was both tender and urgent. It felt like a release, a way to drown out the pain and betrayal that had consumed us both. We spent the night together, finding comfort in each other's arms. It was a whirlwind of emotions, grief, anger, passion, all colliding in a single moment. As the sun rose, reality set in, but instead of regret, I felt a sense of resolve. We had both been wronged, and while our actions might not have been right, they felt justified in the face of such betrayal. The next morning, I made a decision. I wasn't just going to let Emily and John get away with this. They needed to face the consequences of their actions. I went back to my house, gathered the evidence I had, and prepared to confront them both. Karen agreed to be there with me, to stand by my side as we exposed their lies. That evening, I called Emily and told her we needed to talk. She sounded nervous, but agreed to meet me at home. I did the same with John, making sure he'd be there too. When they both arrived, the tension was thick, the air heavy with anticipation. "What's going on, Tom?" Emily asked, her voice wavering. "I think you both know what this is about," I replied coldly. "It's time to come clean." I laid out the emails and texts on the table, the proof of their affair undeniable. Emily's face turned white, while John looked like he'd been punched in the gut. They tried to explain, to apologize, but their words rang hollow. "You've both destroyed everything," Karen said, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. "Your lies, your betrayal. It's unforgivable. Emily broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. John just stood there, silent and defeated. I felt a grim satisfaction, knowing they were finally facing the consequences of their actions. It didn't erase the pain, but it was a start. "We're done," I said, my voice firm. "Karen and I, we deserve better than this. You'll both be hearing from our lawyers." With that, Karen and I walked out, leaving them to grapple with the fallout of their choices. It wasn't the end of our journey, but it was a step toward reclaiming our lives. Together, we faced the future, ready to rebuild from the ashes of our shattered past. The days following the confrontation were a whirlwind of legal meetings and emotional turmoil. Emily had moved out, staying with a friend while we figured out the logistics of our separation. John, too, had been kicked out by Karen and was living in a hotel. The neighborhood buzzed with gossip, the perfect suburban scandal unfolding in real time. Despite the chaos, there was a strange sense of calm in the house. The kids were confused and upset, but I did my best to reassure them that everything would be okay. I had explained that their mom and I were going through a tough time, but we both loved them very much and would always be there for them. They deserved stability, and I was determined to provide it. One evening, about a week after the confrontation, Emily showed up at the house. She looked tired and disheveled, a shadow of the woman I had known for so many years. She asked if we could talk, and though my anger still simmered beneath the surface, I agreed. It was time to face her, to get the answers I needed to move forward. We sat in the living room, the silence heavy and awkward. Emily fidgeted with her hands, her eyes avoiding mine. Finally, she spoke. "Tom, I'm so sorry for everything," she began, her voice trembling. "I know I've hurt you deeply, and I don't expect you to forgive me. But I need you to understand why it happened." I crossed my arms, leaning back in my chair. "Go on." She took a deep breath, tears welling up in her eyes. "I felt so lonely, Tom. You were always busy with work, and I felt like I was just here to take care of the house and the kids. I didn't feel valued or loved. John was there, and he made me feel seen, appreciated." I clenched my jaw, struggling to keep my emotions in check. "So, you decided to have an affair? To destroy our family?" "It wasn't planned," she insisted. "It just happened. I know that doesn't make it right, but I was desperate for some kind of connection." "You should have talked to me, Emily," I said, my voice rising. "We could have worked on it together, but instead, you chose to lie and cheat." She broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. I know. I was selfish and stupid. I didn't think about the consequences. I'm so sorry, Tom. I'll do anything to make it right." I shook my head, the weight of her betrayal pressing down on me. "There's no going back from this, Emily. You shattered my trust, and I don't think it can ever be repaired." She wiped her tears, her face a mask of despair. "What about the kids? They need both of us." "They'll always have both of us," I replied firmly. "But not together. We'll co-parent. We'll be there for them, but our marriage is over." Emily nodded slowly, the reality sinking in. "I understand. I'll move out permanently and find a place nearby so I can be close to the kids." "Good," I said, standing up. "We'll get through this, but it's going to take time." She looked up at me, her eyes filled with regret. "I'm so sorry, Tom. I hope one day you can find it in your heart to forgive me." I didn't respond. Forgiveness was a long way off, and I wasn't sure if I'd ever get there. I walked her to the door, watching as she left, the finality of it all settling in. Over the next few weeks, Emily and I navigated the complexities of separation. We worked out a schedule for the kids, dividing our time with them as fairly as possible. It was painful, but necessary. I focused on rebuilding my life, finding solace in my routines, and the support of friends and family. Karen and I continued to lean on each other, our bond growing stronger with each passing day. We spent time together, not out of revenge anymore, but because we genuinely enjoyed each other's company. She was a beacon of light in a dark time, and I was grateful for her presence in my life. One evening, as Karen and I sat on my porch, watching the sunset, she turned to me with a soft smile. "How are you holding up, Tom?" I sighed, looking out at the horizon. "It's hard, but I'm getting there. Having you around has made it a lot easier." She reached out, taking my hand in hers. We'll get through this together, one step at a time. I nodded, feeling a sense of peace wash over me. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful. We had faced the worst, and now it was time to rebuild, to find happiness again. Together, we could create a new future, one built on trust, respect, and love. The day of the divorce trial approached with a mix of dread and relief. Emily and I had managed to stay civil for the kids' sake, but the tension between us was palpable. We had agreed to joint custody, but there were still financial and property matters to settle. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but it was a necessary step toward moving on. The night before the trial, Emily called and asked if we could talk one last time. I hesitated but agreed, knowing we needed to clear the air before facing each other in court. We met at a quiet cafe, away from prying eyes and gossiping neighbors. Emily looked tired, her once vibrant eyes now dull and weary. She played with her coffee cup, avoiding my gaze. Finally, she spoke. "Tom, I know tomorrow is going to be tough, but I wanted to tell you how sorry I am again. I've had a lot of time to think, and I realized just how much I hurt you and our family." I nodded, my emotions a tangled mess. "I appreciate that, Emily. But this isn't just about an apology. It's about moving forward and doing what's best for the kids." She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "I know. I never wanted it to end like this." "Neither did I," replied softly. "But here we are. We have to make the best of it." We sat in silence for a while, the weight of our shared history hanging between us. Eventually, Emily reached across the table, taking my hand. "Do you think we can ever be friends again, Tom? For the kids?" I looked at her, the woman I had once loved more than anything. "Maybe someday. But it's going to take time. We need to heal first." She squeezed my hand, then let go. "Thank you, Tom, for everything. I hope you find happiness." "You too, Emily." The next day, we stood in front of the judge, our lawyers by our sides. The proceedings were straightforward, but emotionally draining. We divided our assets, discussed the kids' schedules, and finalized the end of our marriage. When it was over, I felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. It was the end of an era, but also the beginning of a new chapter. As we left the courthouse, I saw Karen waiting for me outside. She smiled, a warm, reassuring presence amidst the turmoil. I walked over to her, feeling the weight lift off my shoulders. "How did it go?" she asked, her voice gentle. "It's done," I replied. "We're officially divorced." She nodded, taking my hand. "You did the right thing, Tom. Now you can focus on healing and moving forward." I squeezed her hand, grateful for her support. "Thank you, Karen. I couldn't have gotten through this without you." We walked to my car, the sun shining brightly, a stark contrast to the storm that had raged in my life for so long. As we drove back home, I felt a sense of peace, knowing that I was finally free to rebuild my life. Over the next few months, I focused on the kids and my job, finding a new rhythm in the aftermath of the divorce. Emily and I communicated only when necessary, and our interactions, though strained, were civil. The kids were adjusting, slowly but surely, to the new normal. Karen and I grew closer, our bond deepening into something more than just shared pain. We spent more time together, our relationship blossoming into a romance that felt right, natural. We didn't rush things, taking it one day at a time, but it was clear we were building something special. One evening, after a particularly good day with the kids, I invited Karen over for dinner. We cooked together, laughing and enjoying each other's company. After the meal, we sat on the porch watching the stars. "Tom," Karen said, turning to face me, "I've been thinking about us, about the future." I looked at her, feeling a warmth spread through me. "What about it?" She smiled, a little nervous. "I think we have something really special here. I don't want to rush things, but I also don't want to let fear hold us back." I took her hand, feeling the same sense of hope and possibility. "I feel the same way, Karen. We've been through a lot, but I think we can build something amazing together." She leaned in, her lips brushing mine in a tender kiss. "Here's to new beginnings, she whispered. New beginnings, I echoed, feeling a sense of joy and anticipation for the future. As the days turned into weeks and then months, Karen and I continued to build our life together. We faced challenges, of course, but we tackled them as a team. The kids warmed up to her, and it felt like our blended family was finding its way. Emily, too, seemed to be moving on. She had found a new place and was focusing on her relationship with the kids. We maintained a cordial relationship, communicating about the children and ensuring they felt loved and supported by both of us. Looking back, the journey had been painful and difficult, but it had also led to growth and new opportunities. I had learned to value myself, to seek out happiness, and to cherish the people who truly mattered. One evening, as Karen and I watched the sunset from the porch, I felt a deep sense of contentment. The past was behind us, and the future was filled with promise. We had faced the darkness and come out stronger, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. As the seasons changed and time moved forward, the wounds of the past began to heal. The new life I was building with Karen felt like a second chance, a fresh start after so much pain and betrayal. Our blended family found its rhythm, the kids adapting to the changes with surprising resilience. Karen and I decided to move in together, combining our households into one. It was a big step, but one that felt right. We found a house that fit all of us, a place where new memories could be created, untainted by the past. The move was an adventure for the kids, and it brought us all closer together. The first night in our new home, we gathered around the dining table for dinner. The atmosphere was filled with excitement and a sense of possibility. Sam and Lily chatted animatedly about their new rooms, while Karen's kids, Alex and Mia, shared their hopes for the future. It felt like we were truly becoming a family. After dinner, Karen and I sat on the back porch, watching the kids play in the yard. The twilight sky was painted in hues of pink and orange, and a gentle breeze rustled the trees. Karen leaned her head on my shoulder, and I wrapped my arm around her. "Tom, can you believe how far we've come?" she asked softly. I smiled, kissing the top of her head. "It's incredible, isn't it? A year ago I couldn't have imagined this. But now it feels like everything has fallen into place." She nodded, a contented sigh escaping her lips. "I'm so grateful for you, for us. I never thought I could be this happy again." "Me too, Karen. Me too." We sat in comfortable silence, watching the kids laugh and play. The darkness of the past felt distant, replaced by the warmth and light of our new life. We had faced the worst together and emerged stronger, ready to embrace whatever the future held. As the weeks turned into months, our life together continued to flourish. We celebrated holidays, birthdays, and everyday moments, each one strengthening the bonds between us. The kids grew closer, and it warmed my heart to see them forming sibling-like relationships. Work was steady, providing a sense of stability amidst all the changes. I found joy in my career again, no longer weighed down by the turmoil at home. Karen's support was unwavering, and she encouraged me to pursue new opportunities and challenges. One evening, after the kids were in bed, Karen and I sat on the porch, enjoying a quiet moment together. She handed me a small box, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "What's this?" I asked, intrigued. "Open it and find out," she replied with a smile. I carefully opened the box to find a silver key inside. I looked at her, puzzled. "It's the key to our future," she explained. "I bought a small piece of land just outside town. I thought we could build a cabin there, a place where we can escape to on weekends and holidays." I was speechless, touched by the thoughtfulness of her gesture. "Karen, this is incredible. I love it." She grinned, her excitement infectious. "I thought it could be our little project, something we build together." I kissed her, feeling overwhelmed by love and gratitude. "Thank you, Karen. I can't wait to start this new adventure with you." Building the cabin became a family project. We spent weekends clearing the land, planning the layout, and working together to bring our dream to life. It was hard work, but it was also incredibly rewarding. Each nail hammered and each beam lifted was a testament to our resilience and the new life we were creating. The cabin quickly became our sanctuary, a place where we could escape the hustle and bustle of everyday life. We filled it with laughter, love, and countless memories. It was a symbol of our journey, a reminder of how far we had come. As we settled into our new life, I found myself reflecting on the past. The pain and betrayal had been devastating, but they had also led me to a place of profound growth and happiness. I had learned to value myself, to seek out joy, and to build a life filled with love and purpose. One evening, as Karen and I watched the sunset from the porch of our cabin, I felt a deep sense of peace. The sky was painted in vibrant colors, a fitting backdrop to the beauty of our life together. I turned to Karen, taking her hand in mine. "Thank you for everything, Karen, for being my rock, my partner, and my love." She smiled, her eyes filled with warmth. "And thank you, Tom, for showing me that it's possible to find happiness again. I love you." "I love you too, Karen. Here's to our new life and all the adventures to come." As we sat there hand in hand, I knew that the future was bright. We had faced the darkness and come out stronger, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. Together, we had built a new life, one filled with hope, love, and endless possibilities.